staff and footballers. Today, I'll be discussing our Footballers Monthly Update, 4 crucial fitness elements you must maximise. Before doing that, it's middle of the year, June, or you might be listening to this perhaps in July when we release the podcast. It's a great time to do a bit of a self-audit on your season so far in the middle part of the year, both from an AFL season, but for a lot of community sports as well. So recommend going through a bit of a reflection piece on what the first half of the football season has looked like for you. And then hopefully if a strength or a conditioning aspect is a reason why you're not making big impact in games or perhaps consistently in games, then these 4 key areas, both strength, power, conditioning, agility, and recovery, these tips will help you. But ultimately, we had a few questions come in on our Instagram live on our story, and it was around making an impact. So I've revolved a lot of the content around that. If you're listening in live either on YouTube or on Instagram and you've got some follow-up questions, feel free to shoot them through and I'll do my best to answer them. But largely they're around the people that messaged us through about making a consistent impact. So consistency was a big one that popped up, and then making a big impact on the ground. When I asked further up questions on what's stopping you from being consistent or either stopping you from making that impact, the common answers were lack of confidence or calling for the ball and standing out more. So I thought I'd dive into those a little bit deeper. So if you're feeling like you're low in confidence due to your form, or perhaps you're not calling for the ball as loudly as other teammates, go into that mid-season reflection piece. Look at what your habits are with your craft. So perhaps you're not confident because your kicking has been a little bit off lately. Maybe if you're a key position player, perhaps your marking hasn't been, you haven't got that one-touch grab in your game. You've been double grabbing it or missing those marks. And generally what tends to happen is you'll lose your confidence in your voice and your conviction in calling for the ball. But also, so that's from you personally, but also what can happen is you'll lose trust from your teammates. And that can have a bit of a ripple effect in your confidence as well. So if you reflect on your game and you want to make a bigger impact at the game, or you want to work on your consistency, then ask yourself what's stopping you. And then from there, work on those areas that you feel that are going to ultimately boost your confidence and allow you to then really command for the ball next time you're playing and build that trust back up with your teammates. So if it is a strength and conditioning area, obviously I can help you with that. We've got these 4 key areas that typically are our foundations from an Australian rules football point of view, and they are strength training. So let's say your ability to win the contest is down. There's no doubt in my mind if you'll get stronger through box squat, trap bar deadlift, bench press, and weighted chin-ups or bench pulls. So your key areas of leg strength, upper body strength, and developing some good core trunk strength as well to be able to handle those heavy external loads. You'll be much better than keeping your feet in the contest. You'll be much better at breaking a tackle, sticking your tackles. The more force you can produce, the better you'll be in those contested situations to counteract that jostling and combativeness that you find yourself in the contest. So strength training will definitely help. I've gone into great detail on episode 116, which we released on our podcast, benchmarking yourself, so you can see where you stack up against an Australian rules footballer, and that can give you a good guide on where you need to focus on from a strength and power point of view, whether it be, is it your reactive strength, is it your max strength, is it your speed? So listen to that episode and benchmark yourself, and that can give you a good audit to what to focus on for your program for the rest of the year, because ultimately this is the time where you can get a real competitive advantage. Most people, most footballers are going to drop off unless they've got a program to follow or they've got a strength and conditioning coach helping them. They're going to drop off their motivation and lose a lot of strength over the next couple of months, June, July, August. And we know the most competitive and highest contest, faster paced game is in September. If you're lucky enough to be playing finals, that's when you want to be at your strongest. So the work you're doing now will pay dividends if you stay on board. So make sure you're getting your strength training in. If you want to learn the basics around Australian rules football and have a program to follow, click the link in the show notes. We've got a free 2-week trial. Next, is our endurance. So I talked about on episode 114 and 113 the importance of aerobic and anaerobic development. So make sure to check out 113 and 114 on our podcast to get a better understanding of specifically workout examples to improve your aerobic capacity and workout examples about how to improve your anaerobic threshold and whether you're in season, pre-season, or off-season, how we want to periodize those, which is critical because if you just start piling on a lot of fitness training this time of year, you're going to get a lot of fatigue thrown at your system, and that's going to actually have a negative impact in how you feel going into games and your output in games. So we want to get that balance right between maintaining or perhaps developing your fitness while also getting in adequate recovery between games week after week. So make sure to check out those episodes. Your best windows generally will be early in the week for aerobic development, aerobic capacity, as Gareth Stanford, who we recently had on as a guest on our podcast, alluded to, has a parasympathetic recovery benefit to it. So if you get the stimulus right, that talking pace intensity, which can be really hard for footballers because you're so conditioned to going at high intensity and doing things at interval pace, but actually just doing like an 8-minute steady state, easy pace on the bike with a 2-minute spin, 3 rounds of that, so 30 minutes of work, and you should feel better when you walk off that session than when you started. And you could do that a day after a game just to flush the legs, but also maintain some good exposure to your critical speed. So highly recommend getting in your aerobic work, and then be smart with your anaerobic intervals. Start prescribing some AEST work, but I'd be programming more towards the middle of the week if your main training is on Wednesday or Thursday, if you need that extra high speed exposure to help you run out games and ultimately provide more high intensity efforts within games. Then we've got our agility, so our game speed. Episode 55, how to improve your lateral speed, will be really important for those listening in that feel that your agility is off. Maybe you're lacking that ability to cut away from opponent, or perhaps you just haven't got that speed to be able to evade your opponents, and you're wanting to build that back out. It is a trained quality, both the reactive piece, so being able to read the cues, whether you're doing defensive action, like being able to read the opponent's hips and lay your tackle, or if you're playing a small-sided game and you're trying to evade tackles and not get touched. So we want to make sure we're working on our quick feet, working on our power cutting, drop steps, and sharp angles like a 180 shuttle turn, for example, to really practice that penultimate step, decelerating off one leg and then crossover and cutting and developing that power. So we want to make sure that you're practicing that skill. The best time to work on your agility will be during your main training session, because your body will be fully recovered from the previous game, and it will also prime you for the upcoming game. So that's your best window to maximize your agility development. And make sure to check out episode 55 for some specific drills. I've also got some specific agility drills that you can do and follow on our YouTube channel. And for Academy members, our next exercise library upload is going to be on this very topic, agility. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And then the last one, for those that perhaps if you're completing that audit and you just feel like your energy's down, your motivation's down, you've been putting in a lot of work and you're still not reaping the benefits, perhaps you're just not doing enough recovery. You're doing a lot of working out and you're not doing a lot of working in. And I like to think of a 2-to-1 ratio, where if you're doing a training session and it's quite intense and that went for 60 minutes, then you've now got at least 2 hours that you owe to yourself of recovery to work in to be able to reap the benefits of that training and ultimately get adaptation and allow your body to be able to get that balance right between fitness and fatigue. Okay, so are you fatigued because you're overworking, or are you fatigued because you're simply under recovering? And I'd say for more often than not, it'll be the later. So get in your recovery, book in extra massages, make sure you get down to your local pool, go through some pool mobility and run throughs and drills, The load's a lot easier on the joints. Obviously, in the pool, you can lose at least 50% of your body weight. So that's a great opportunity to get a lot of light movement in the day after a game, or perhaps straight after your game, to really promote that blood flow and really unglue the body. As we know, it gets really stiff and tight from all the running volumes, as well as contests. So making sure you're going for long walks, get that sauna sessions in, ice bath sessions in, and just stick to that rule. There is no real right or wrong. Listen to your body. It's probably the number one, and just have a bit of an insight on, do you feel better for the type of recovery that you did going into your next training session? And if you trained well and you're feeling better going into your upcoming game, then clearly those recovery processes worked quite well. So it shouldn't be a rigid plan that on Mondays I do ice baths, on Tuesdays I do sauna, on Wednesdays I get a massage. That's not really listening to your body. So you want to think about, what was the demand of the game on the weekend? Was it a highly contested wet weather game, so there was lots of collisions? Then perhaps an ice bath to be able to bring down that swelling and inflammation from all the hits will be really beneficial. Was it more a high intensity running game and you've got really heavy legs and you need to promote blood flow to help flush out that all those byproducts are built up from high intensity running and help your muscles recover? Maybe you need also, if your nervous system's down due to poor sleep, big training sessions, and perhaps you need a bit of a contrast, hot, cold rotations, maybe 3 minutes ice bath, 5 minutes sauna, 3 to 4 rounds to help supercharge your nervous system and get that energy back. So there's a few options. If I've got over 6 episodes that we've done on the podcast around recovery. Episode 14, episode 26, episode 37, 64, 84, and 87. So there's plenty of information there if you want to dive a little bit deeper on recovery. Obviously, if you're an Academy member, there's some examples and workouts for you to follow to enhance your recovery and how to specifically pick the right recovery on the demand of the game that you played, as well as how you're feeling. And that's the key. Listen to your body, experiment, try different things out, and measure on how effective that recovery modality was for you. It's all about using the right tools in the toolbox. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Hopefully, I've encouraged you to do a self-audit in that middle of the year, reflect on what's working well for you, what you've changed in your habits and processes compared to last year that you feel has been effective. If you've given it enough time and it's not effective, now's the time to can it and tweak some of your habits going into the back half of the year. And just remember, number one, the most important thing this time of year is stick to your consistency when it comes to the gym training. This is the biggest time where most footballers will drop off. So make sure you stick to your strength training program. That should be a minimum of 2 total body sessions a week. And 1 upper body strength session. So 3 gym sessions that would take around 30 to 45 minutes. So what's that? About 2 hours to 2.5 hours max a week. That's going to put you in good stead for September. So make sure to stick to your gym program. Like I said, if you haven't got one and you're losing that motivation, it's probably because you haven't got purpose and you're just going through the motions. Recommend trying out our program. You can do it for 2 weeks with no charge whatsoever. To check out that free program, go to preparelikeapro.com. The link is in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you guys on our next interview.